wisdom. No, they all carry this word of power as an answer. So I sent right that struck every hand of death of children of God. I sent it right to silence every darkness during and after the appearance of this eclipse in any realm. I silence the coming earth movement. Many nations shall see again this earth movement, the earthquakes. This is after the eclipse. So some nations which think prophets miss the target of their prophecy, many are going to come fast. Why? The activator is in the ultraviolet rays that shall silence or challenge the working of the rays or the radiation of the land, hence causing heat to move in many nations. May God act in time to cause peace, cause humbleness of this danger in any nation. Never say a prophet has missed a prophecy. Once it comes when you are in argument, you lose it all. Those who saw John prophesying that Ephesus will one day dry, he thought he was mad. But we had to pray again for the Spirit as subject. Today, that are spiritual. Aaron, there is no any other word that could humble the word of John from drying the whole river. He had looked at us, but it requires the Spirit operating in that time to release the word of the Spirit to cause it to stand. So many it's not good. Many man-made many man-made lakes, rivers, or seas will lose potential if it comes in anger. How does it come in anger? And you know how big this event is. So, if it becomes dark, meaning if the eclipse is dark, if the sun appears dark, know that death will be great. A reason it is near the seventh pillar of the death of many. If it is bright, there will be some high heat levels that shall affect the brightness of it, shall represent high heat levels in many nations. This is the famine we are looking at every day and declare that nations look not at politics, look at how to save the land. This is what we always speak. But if it is shining, like this today, like when it is true sun, but when they say it has happened, they know we are safe and protected by the Spirit of God forever, with all content there is to start acting on the new generation. May God, who controls every radiation, may God who controls every communication, may the spirit that controls every.
Now to the weather and a weekend of extremes. Tonight, more than 58 million Americans under alerts as a heat wave scorches the west. Billings, Montana, really feeling it at 110 degrees. That's a new record high. The heat also fueling fires and firing up thunderstorms. CBS's Carter Evans is in Los Angeles with more. Carter, good evening.
Well, good evening, Tom. We're expecting a heat wave here in Los Angeles in the coming days with monsoonal moisture that could bring thunderstorms and dry lightning, a big concern for firefighters. Progress tonight on the Summit Fire, which has burned nearly 3,000 acres outside Los Angeles. Just a few miles west, firefighters made quick work on a fast-moving blaze that came dangerously close to homes. While in Loyalton, California,
the fire off Highway 70.
A helicopter crew mapped out another fire from above.
It's all open line.
And in Colorado, where the Aspen Acres fire burned hundreds of homes, U.S. Senator John Hickenlooper toured the damage.
We definitely need more funding. There have been huge cuts to the fire service. There have been cuts to BLM. There have been cuts everywhere.
Fueling those fire concerns is extreme heat, now bearing down on millions.
If the wind ain't blowing, you're trying to pour water on yourself or whatever you could do. It is hot out there.
Further east, too much water is a concern. In New Orleans, thunderstorms dumped several inches of rain, forcing families to wade through knee-high water.
Come on, y'all, keep up.
And communities in Philadelphia are cleaning up after powerful microbursts ripped through neighborhoods with wind gusts up to 70 miles per hour.
Heard a giant boom, and I'm like, did we get hit by lightning? And then I looked out the front door and saw the roof was on top of my vehicle.
So it's really from one extreme to the other. About 40% of the country is experiencing drought conditions right now. Tom?
All right, Carter, thank you for that. And for the latest on the extreme weather, let's turn to CBS meteorologist Andrew Kozak, who's tracking it all. So, Andrew, what can you tell us?
Yeah, Tom, good evening. I can tell you the name of the game for tens of millions of you is going to be the searing heat. We've got excessive heat warnings, heat advisories for much of the West and even places bordering Canada. We've talked about Billings, Montana, shattering records today, over 110 degrees. That spreads to places like Rapid City, Omaha, Nebraska, and as we head into the next couple of days, even Minneapolis, mid to upper 90s. Look at Green Bay, Wisconsin, 98 degrees by Tuesday. All of this part of a massive heat dome, and it's not just going to stay in this area, it's going to move across the Great Lakes. By Wednesday, places like New York City could be knocking on the door of triple-digit heat. Tonight, I want to talk about the severe weather across the southeast as well. This is the same system, by the way. They gave 4 different microbursts to places like Philadelphia, trees down, power lines. We could see that and flash flooding for portions of Georgia and South Carolina into this evening. That continues for tomorrow, so severe weather possible across the South. Heat, the big story again. Tom, a good reminder to check on the very old, the very young, and don't forget the pets.
Andrew, thank you for that.
Eclipse shall appear. I cannot forget, pray for few nations. China, Russia, the new Ayah, Denmark, Netherlands, Taiwan. This Turkey issue will come back. It's just terrified for it to come back. Whatever event happens in Turkey or Taiwan will appear because of this wind or this appearance of the meaning post eclipse. There will be some other shakings in Turkey.
Of minutes, starting with how does the body actually respond to these extreme heat temperatures?
Yeah, Matthew, well, a bit of physiology here for you. Whether it's -10 outside or +40, your body wants to keep an internal body temperature of around 37 degrees Celsius. And in extreme heat, it does this initially by something called vasodilation. That means blood vessels near the surface of the skin widen, and that blood flow, that heat is released. Now that causes the blood pressure to drop, which can potentially be dangerous if you have a heart condition, and it makes the heartbeat faster. Then the sweat glands come into play, and water and salt are released. They go to the surface and they give off heat and energy, and so cool the skin, but that can be tricky in humid conditions, which is what we have at the moment, more difficult for that to evaporate. Now, taken together, they can lead in extreme cases to heat exhaustion, where you can be sweating heavily, have pale, clammy skin, be dizzy or confused. Now, the advice there from the NHS is very clear. If somebody looks like they have heat exhaustion, move them into the shade, remove any excess clothing, give them water and cool down their skin. But if they haven't recovered within 30 minutes, they may have heat stroke, and heat stroke is a medical emergency. And the signs there are that a very high temperature, the body's internal mechanism is not working. They may no longer be sweating. They may be fainting or even vomit. And that can apply in this red heat warning, not just to those who are particularly vulnerable, like babies, the elderly, if you're pregnant or you have a heart or lung condition. That can apply to anyone who stays out in the heat too long.
You mentioned babies. There are a lot of vulnerable groups. So what can people do to keep babies safe in these sorts of conditions?
Well, one of the pieces of advice is, if your baby's in a pram or a cot, don't cover it with a blanket or a cover. Use a parasol, because otherwise the hot air gets trapped. The thing about babies in particular, and also to a certain extent young children, is their internal body clock, their body temperature regulation, I should say, which is controlled by the hypothalamus, is not fully set up yet. And so they're much more vulnerable. And of course, with babies, they can't move themselves into the shade. So they're particularly vulnerable. And obviously, they should never, even for a second, be left alone in a car. And that applies to anyone in this hot weather. When it comes to all of us, if you're at home and you don't have something like air condition or fans, you should pull the curtains on the side of the house that faces the sun, and then only at night, when it's potentially cooler, open the curtains and the windows to get some kind of current of air through. And then obviously really simple, obvious things, but worth saying, stay out of the sun, stay in the shade, and stay hydrated. Wear loose-fitting clothing with cotton or linen fibres, light colours,